When I got there, she was unresponsive in the bed, and she was bleeding from her stomach. When I went to go pick her up, I started doing compressions before I went to go pick her up. I heard her gurgle. I heard her last breath. I just prayed that they could resuscitate her and bring her back. I tried CPR before the ambulance and the police got here. I did the best I could.
She was a loving, sweet, caring person with a good heart, and somebody took the life of her.
It's 5:15 in the morning at an apartment complex near Flat Shoals Road. The sun hasn't risen yet. Most residents are asleep. Then the quiet breaks. Gunfire erupts. Not a random spray of bullets from a passing car, but a deliberate, focused barrage. Exactly 11 rounds are fired. When first responders arrive at Pepper Tree Circle, they don't find a chaotic street scene. They find a shattered ground floor bedroom window. The trajectory of the glass and the bullet holes point to a specific sequence of events. The shooter didn't try to break down the front door. They didn't target the living room. They walked directly up to one specific window and unloaded a weapon into the darkness. Inside the apartment, the reality of the scene comes into focus. There are 2 young children in the residence. They are terrified, but physically unharmed. The bullets were aimed precisely at the bed. First responders find the victim critically wounded. 3 bullets have struck her. But as paramedics rush to stabilize her, they realize the victim isn't just a young mother. She is 40 weeks pregnant, days away from giving birth. Within hours, investigators will have a suspect in custody. But finding out who pulled the trigger is only the beginning. What detectives are about to find on his criminal record will expose a failure in the justice system that left an entire state asking how this man was allowed on the streets to begin with. To understand how the system reached this point, we have to go back. Shakiya Pridgen was 23 years old, originally from the Charlotte area. She had built her entire life around her family. She was already raising 2 young children, ages 1 and 3. By all accounts, June 2026 was supposed to be a month of celebration.
Get ready to open up them gifts. Hey, mama and daughter, get ready to do their thing. Go ahead, Dina. Go ahead, Kaya, mother and daughter. Hey, listen, we welcome you guys, and we are having a great time. And you know grandma gonna get in the middle of everything too. Hey, I'm in here with y'all, ain't I?
Shakiya was expecting a baby boy. She had already picked out a name, Kyron.
Okay, so what you're saying is whatever name you pick is going to be the baby's name? Yes. You're going to pick one name?
She was at the finish line of her pregnancy. The nursery was prepared. The clothes were folded. Being 40 weeks along meant Kyron could arrive on any given day. Those who knew Shakiya described a woman entirely focused on her children's future. She wasn't involved in anything that would make her a target. She lived quietly. But when a young mother with no known enemies is targeted in her own home, investigators immediately look close to her inner circle. Violence against pregnant women rarely comes from a stranger. Statistics overwhelmingly point to someone the victim already knows. Someone who knows their routine. Someone who knows exactly where they sleep. As detectives began piecing together Shakiya's life, they looked for recent conflicts. The hours leading up to the morning of June 16 were ordinary. Night fell. The apartment grew quiet, and Shakiya went to sleep. Outside, the complex was still. The timeline remains undisturbed until roughly 5:15 a.m. This is a critical detail. 5:15 a.m. is an intentional time. It is the deepest part of the sleep cycle for most people. The cover of darkness is complete. The shooter arrived on foot at the window. They didn't hesitate. 11 rounds were fired in rapid succession. The sudden noise triggered immediate panic. Neighbors dialed 911. When police and paramedics arrived, it was a race against time. Shakiya was still alive. Her unborn baby, Kyron, was still holding on. Medical teams fought to save both the young mother and the child she was carrying. But despite their best efforts, the damage was too severe. Shakiya succumbed to her injuries. Kyron did not survive. Back at the apartment, crime scene technicians made a specific observation. The shooter bypassed every other part of the home. They didn't hit the areas where the toddlers were sleeping. Investigators concluded the gunfire was heavily concentrated directly on the mother's bed. By dawn, DeKalb County detectives had established a perimeter. They needed to know who had access to Shakiya and who might have a motive to attack a woman days away from giving birth. Family members, reeling from the sudden loss, pointed detectives toward one specific individual. His name was Devin Lamar Anthony. He was 26 years old. According to Shakiya's family, he was her former boyfriend. And more importantly, he was the father of the unborn child she was carrying. A massive manhunt was initiated. Detectives knew that the first 48 hours are critical in any homicide. If a suspect flees the state, they could be gone forever. But Devin Anthony didn't make it out of the Atlanta metropolitan area. Later that same day, working with the U.S. Marshals Service, authorities located Anthony in Riverdale, Georgia, roughly 20 miles southwest of the crime scene. He was taken into custody. If you value true crime documentaries that dig past the headlines to uncover the documented truth, you found the right place. This is unbelievable. Hit that subscribe button, because the deeper we go into this case, the more unbelievable it gets. Within hours of the 11 shots ringing out, investigators had their primary suspect in an interrogation room. They began drafting the charges: malice murder, feticide, aggravated assault, criminal damage to property. And then, one final charge was added to the list: possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. That specific charge shifted the entire investigation. Detectives pulled Anthony's criminal record. What they saw on the screen didn't just explain his past. It raised massive, uncomfortable questions about the justice system itself. To understand the outrage surrounding this case, you have to look back to March 2021. In 2021, Anthony was indicted in a homicide case. He was charged with felony murder and aggravated assault in the death of a man named Ronald Barner. For the family of Shakiya Pridgen, this discovery fundamentally changed how they viewed her death. The man accused of killing their daughter already had a prior murder indictment on his record. The obvious question emerged: if he was indicted for murder in 2021, why was he walking free in 2026? The answer lies in the mechanics of plea agreements. Court records reveal that in November 2024, prosecutors and Anthony's legal team reached a negotiated plea deal. The original felony murder charge was downgraded. Anthony pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter. Under Georgia's First Offender Act, the judge handed down a 20-year sentence, but the structure of that sentence explains why he was out. Anthony was ordered to serve 11 months in confinement. Because he had already accumulated credit for time served awaiting trial, he was released. The remaining 19 years of his sentence were to be served on probation. A man indicted for murder pleaded down to manslaughter and walked out. But court documents show his time on probation was short-lived. Probation requires strict compliance. In December 2025, just 6 months before Shakiya was killed, Anthony's probation officer filed a violation report. He tested positive for marijuana. He failed to report for his daily check-ins. He did not complete a mandated anger management course. He was sent back to the Fulton County Jail. His probation was revoked. However, the revocation only lasted for 60 days. After serving that brief stint, his probation was reinstated. He was released back into the community once again. Months later, investigators allege he walked up to a bedroom window in DeKalb County with a firearm he was legally barred from possessing. Shakiya's family, particularly her mother Verdina Scott, have channeled their grief into demanding answers. They are asking how a violent offender who proved he could not follow the basic rules of his probation was given multiple chances by the court. Today, Devin Anthony remains behind bars without bond. He is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty in a court of law. The case has ignited a fierce debate regarding community safety. How many red flags must be ignored before a system steps in to protect the public? For the families of victims, these policy debates offer no comfort. Shakiya Pridgen was a 23-year-old mother preparing to welcome a new life. Now, her family is left to raise two young children who survived the morning of June 16 and to grapple with a legal history they believe should have prevented this. The focus now rests on a DeKalb County courtroom, where a family waits to see how the justice system will operate this time. Which moment in this timeline completely changed your view of the justice system? Do you believe plea agreements for violent charges should ever include probation? Let me know your exact thoughts down in the comments below.